Welcome he, she, him, her, we, its, a them. I'd like to introduce myself, me. The wise emoji. Collectively we are we and us. Abortion rights is an important aspect of modern Western culture. It exists in part based on an extreme liberal point of view. It is a modern phenomenon of tricking folks into playing with fire. Not only from a religious point of view but also a moral point of view. For it is often the same folks that argue to protect everything else in nature. This shows an arrogance of man that is reprehensible in the very environment of nature. The arrogance extending onto some lost human rational that somehow is beyond the billions of years of potential natural evolution. I'm talking about humans actually believing that they are perfected in the scheme of evolution, despite the fact that plants were the first to develop and are most closely related to human biology. The differences are merely in how DNA is arranged. There are varying degrees of the belief of abortions being acceptable. I myself have no problem with birth control in various forms of prevention of pregnancy. Some options include pills, patches, creams, medical procedures such as a tubal in women, or a vasectomy in males, and ultimately abstinence. In order to logically reach some ethical resolution in regards to abortion, we must first accept a number of things to be proven true. We must also be willing to know where a line is to be drawn from said ethical restrictions. While the vast majority of abortions are a result of promiscuity, resulting in many pregnancies, especially among teens through mid-20s, someone can easily lose their inhibitions when intentionally impaired by alcohol or other drug or substance use, and become a victim of the eternal struggle of humans against themselves, as well as against nature. Statistically, however, the vast majority of pregnancies come about from not using a form of birth control and willingly engaging in conduct knowing that nature has the ability to aid in a pregnancy. In such conditions, a female and a male willingly decide to become intimate with one another. This first step is done willfully by two separate individuals, who both make the choice to conduct in a behavior together, in which the underlying object of intercourse is ultimately for nature to run its course in further populating. Nature has a right to run its course. It has no human intelligence. It's merely comprised of a series of genetic information that by design can be seemingly random but is controlled by the X and Y chromosomes. Genes can be dominant or recessive. When a man and a woman both decide to engage in such conduct, the right to choose has been exercised, while both are aware of the consequences of intercourse. Neither were forced to procreate by nature, both made an independent choice willfully, and thus both surrendered to the laws of nature. A personal right has been exercised at that point. Should an individual now in regret seek some justification in their bad choices? Yet claim one has a right not to abide by the laws of nature, already contracted with by self-choice. Banning most abortions does not violate anyone's right to choose, as they retain their right until one makes a conscious choice to surrender said right to the laws of nature. In the same sense, a person has the right to be a free person, but if they used their free will and trespassed upon the right of another, they can be incarcerated and lose their freedom. Intentionally committing a trespass is a willful surrender of their right to freedom. An individual has the right to life, but if a person stands atop a tall building and makes the choice to jump off, they made that choice to jump off, therefore surrendering to the laws of nature. At that point gravity takes over, and physics dictate the end outcome. No amount of regret on the way down will change the final outcome. The step can't be undone, and one should be held to a standard to let nature run its course. Would we argue after becoming a victim of ourselves and our own choices to hold nature by society in a trial for being guilty of aiding in suicide? Abortions cannot be logically a right when nature did not commit a trespass by force to result in a pregnancy. It takes the choice of two individuals that creates the conditions of pregnancy. Unlike plants, animals including humans requires a super close engagement to procreate. It's not as random as plants, being populated from wind, insects, or birds, or fish eggs randomly being fertilized. Abortion should not be used as an option of regret. Politicians who spout about banning abortions somehow violates a woman's right to choose is absurdity. Politicians complaining about the court of law making rational and logical rulings based on the human willingness to surrender to nature, and then somehow claiming truths to be untrue conservative opinions is even more absurd. Will they next argue a person has the right to let their elderly parents, grandparents, or their handicapped child to die? If that be the case, then cut off social and welfare programs, let those who cannot feed themselves die from hunger. That's not how I feel, but logically in the end that's the left's ideology in their own little tidbits of deplorable sound bites. One who advocates for abortions advocates for aborting their family members, and the rest of the human race who do not agree with them. Ladies, females, women, girls, woman, she, her, mother, miss, Mrs. You were lied to. Human life struggles and hardships with or without a child. It matters not whether you're male or female, being a mother, and being a father is being a benefactor of contribution of continued human existence. It's in part of the reason as to why we have the ability to procreate. Rest assured, if the human species keep practicing this level of disregard of nature, it will eventually take away our ability to continue the human species. Because there was always an excuse of me, and nothing about those who should have been the use.